Welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we are talking about City on a Hill, Season 3, Episode number 2. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Leave a like, leave a comment. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Everybody sort of got a moment in this episode, like every single lead character. Um, let's start with DeCourcy. This was basically the episode. It sort of wrapped up the story with his father, and it was mostly about bonding, with his brother, his father. There was some stuff that tied back to the main storyline, specifically the case going on with Chris and, cops holding the blue line. And, we got a little bit of that. But at the end of the day, the episode was really about, family and just sort of DeCourcy reevaluating what's important in his life. And, at the end, him, basically telling Shaban that, he's going to change up how he is in terms of even their relationship. So, yeah, hell of a scene, when they were sitting there playing cards, glancing up, realizing that his father had passed. I thought all that was done beautifully. Um, Thoughts on the DeCourcy story?
I, After watching it, I finally felt like by the end of his story in this episode, I felt like it made more sense because I didn't know where they were going, how it was going to affect his character. And then by the end of it, when he started talking with Jackie and when he was talking with Shaban and stuff, you kind of saw the direction that his character was going as a result of this. And I think without that part of the storytelling, his character change wouldn't have been explained well. But I think by going this direction, I don't think he's going to have a huge change, but this story arc that's coming forward, it will make a lot more sense by them explaining his relationship with his dad, his relationship with becoming a district attorney, and his feeling that cops are getting away with shit. Like all of this storyline helped, I think, forge the story going forward as far as his character is concerned.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, like you said, it was, it was a very emotional scene and everything, and it was about, like you said, family and everything. But deep down, it was really supposed to be sort of a turning point mentally for DeCourcy that, maybe even if he doesn't have to change, he has to change the way he goes about things and the way that he approaches certain situations and sort of see, well, how can I play this from their perspective to make them a little more flexible, to meet his goals. Because, he has a lot of very noble goals, but, I think especially given the talk that his father gave him and his brother, this was just to sort of impress in him that, okay, the way you go about these things needs to be a little more flexible. Otherwise, you're not going to accomplish anything, which is why he's been sort of, stuck stationary, for all these years in the same job with no promotion or accolades.
And that's always been the frustrating thing about DeCourcy is he's such a great character, a great guy. He has a moral code he lives by. Probably the only character damn near in the show that does. And yet, like you said, he always sort of just gets knocked down, constantly, and it is frustrating. And I do, that going a little off topic, but the ending, which I think like you said, he's changing now, but that little toast he had with Jackie, and Jackie, bringing up the whole thing about parading the body through the streets, and he's just like, I buried my father yesterday, and this is what you want to talk about. But I see a much stronger bond potentially forming between those two characters.
Yeah, definitely. It seems to me that even Jackie was trying to get across, like, okay, you can be this good guy, but you got to be a little bit like me too. You got to be a little dirty. You got to be willing to bend the rules. You got to be willing to play people. Otherwise you're not going to get what you want. You can't be this straight shooter and just be the noblest person in the room and get your way. Not in this world. Otherwise, someone would have done this by now.
Well, and I think that's, part of the reason the storyline with his father was so important, because I think that that's going to push him towards that direction, is finally being willing to, I don't want to say bend his morals, because he does have, I think morally he's not going to change at all, but I think that how he's going to get to his end result might be a little bit different now, because he's always tried to do the right thing, but not just his career. He's unable to get certain things accomplished. When you look at all the crooked things these cops are doing, that the way that they're set up, once he pisses the cops off, the cops aren't willing to go to him. They're not willing to help him. So they've created this divide between the two offices that they don't want to be there. So DeCourcy still wants to get those things accomplished. He still wants to do the right thing by, the people of Boston and everything else. But I think that how he's going to go about doing it now is going to be significantly different. And I think that was a big character turning point as far as what was revealed with his dad and everything.
I think you're right about that, because him refusing to be a little more Machiavellian, in fact, even puts good people at risk. It puts his wife at risk. It puts Chris at risk, whose name I just learned last week during the previous episode.
He's just always a cop guy.
So yeah, he's got to learn to play people. He's got to learn to bend people's will the sort of way that Jackie does. Even if it seems a little dirty, he's doing it for a better purpose.
Speaking of Jackie, great line. Well, how did he get the car? He's like, I won first prize. She's like, for what? For being Jackie Rohr. That was the greatest. This episode, we had all the stuff with DeCourcy and his family, but all the Jackie stuff, this was just perfect Jackie. It was essentially a noir episode, him sort of using his detective skills and, the connections he has and just his know-how to track down, a missing person. And, and then all the while starting to dig in and learn things. And, clearly that storyline appears that he's going to learn the truth. And, what is he going to do with that information? Truth being that Sinclair drugs and, sexually assaults young women. And we had Dominique, who died last week. And this is what was the catalyst for Victoria running away, because she's starting to piece things together. There's so many little details, and y'all can go into what you liked or didn't, but just even the moment of Jackie being willing to help FBI with a case that he could have apparently solved if he wanted at any time, just so he could get a connection to the morgue because he needed to check on a body. Like, it makes you wonder, how many things could Jackie have done that he just didn't, because there was no purpose, or it didn't benefit him in any direct way. He's very, very interesting character, like in that way. But yeah, I felt his story was essentially sort of like this cool noir story.
Well, and I think part of it too wasn't necessarily the fact that he could have or couldn't have solved it. He was the guy there for a while. He was the go-to guy for the FBI in that city. He was their point of contact. He was living off the fame of being able to arrest some huge internal problems and some organized crime, essentially. But I think he started to realize, even in the first season, that his fame was short-lived, and with all the things that were coming up against him, he was going to have to change how he worked. But I think some of the reasons he didn't go as far as he could have or should have was just because he wasn't able to. There was such a tight grip on what he was doing, and his fucking personal life was falling apart. So he wasn't able to kind of pursue some of those things that he should have. But he shows how smart he is and how it took him like 3 seconds to solve that case. And had he applied himself, he could have probably climbed the ladder if he wasn't involved in all the other crooked shit on top of that. So I think that not only is it a character forming moment for Jackie, it's showing that not only is he smart enough, it seems like he's starting to shift a little bit more towards the redeemable anti-hero instead of just the villain that we're following.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because, the types of crimes that Sinclair is committing are very, personal to him, given what's happened to his family. So once he finds out, he's not going to let that go, and he's definitely going to find out, because much like his wife said over the past couple of episodes here, It's very much who he is to investigate these things. It's not like Jackie to let something go. So he's already got a lot of leads and stuff, and he's going to piece those things together, partially because it's to his advantage, even though it seems like, and I'm sure he's aware, he's 100% aware that, oh, the car and this and that's us buying your silence. That's us telling you to maybe look the other way or to stop investigating those things that we don't want you to investigate. But he's Jackie, so he's still going to do it. He's just going to do it smarter is the thing. Now he knows they don't want him to know. But why would he, Jackie being who he is, turn down that amount of leverage? Because he's like, okay, this is something really big that they don't want me to know. It's not like I'm going to lose the car. They've already gifted me the car, And if I find out
in my name.
Title's in my name. Yeah, absolutely. And I have the job, so, and if I find out what it is, that might just be job security at worst, so, but I doubt he believes that it's something bad enough that he's like, okay, well, I'm going to arrest my boss. But I feel like this is definitely leading towards him arresting his boss, because it seems like a line even for him.
Yeah, I think when he truly figures it out, he's gonna be like, God damn, like, because Jackie's involved in crazy shit too, but this, it's the most extreme possible thing, and I think that even he will be a little shook by it, be like, damn, I can't,
well, yeah,
he does this.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, well, I was hoping to have some blackmail on you, not figure this shit out. I wasn't expecting all this.
It's like, I'm gonna have to take you out.
Well, and that's, since we're building off that part, I'm curious if he's going to, because the wife, and we talked about it last time, that she is going to play a huge role going forward. I'm curious if her and Jackie are going to work together to take out Sinclair, or if Jackie's going to try and take down both of them, because she's just as guilty. So I am curious as to how that's going to play out.
Let's go to Jenny. The three other sort of smaller storylines that I'm not completely sure where they're headed. The sort of the Jenny storyline, Siobhan's situation with the ACLU, and then the Chris, which had quite a bit of screen time this week. He did. The Jenny story, we have her and Doyle and, their little interaction, and, it's fine. I did not expect what happened at the end of him bringing her father. And then once it happened, I was like, is this really happening? And then, when she attacked him, that was great. But where the hell does that go? In terms of dealing with her father, her and Doyle, like, is there going to be any friendship after that? Or, I don't know.
Yeah, I legitimately thought, okay, this is where he's going to make a pass at her. Because did that seem like that scene to you guys also? Because that's what I thought was happening. I thought Doyle was.
I thought that was where it was going. Yeah. You mean when he was like, is Jackie here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he started talking, and he's like, I just saw that look in your eyes, and and I knew you needed something, and it's like, oh, okay, here's where it finally happens. After all these seasons, but yeah, for the thing with her father showing up and everything, that was unexpected. Her response makes sense, but I didn't expect that from her. And he was talking like he owned the house still, so I see that turning into a conflict. Like maybe a legal one, and I honestly, the way I see this ending is Jackie making him disappear for real this time. From the face of the earth, not just going into hiding or anything.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, here's hoping, but yeah, I don't see Jackie finding out about this and about him stopping by and that going well for him at all.
Oh, hell no. He might take a swing at Doyle.
Yeah, I was about to say, it might go bad for Doyle. Who knows what he'll do to Doyle?
Well, he already told him, and Doyle already had a run-in because he felt like he was coming after Jenny. So
yeah, that's true.
I'm curious if what's going to come of that.
Any thoughts on the Shaban ACLU story. There was more to it. We did get a few moments of almost sort of like a PTSD thing, when the guy, touched her. And the dream, she had a nightmare, and she woke up to call DeCourcy. So she's still dealing with trauma from last season, as is he. But I still, even this week, I'm like, where's this going?
I think the guy that owns the site is mob related, because that's the only way I could really see it, escalating. And plus, that'd be hard for her to handle with the trauma she suffered already, So, and it just makes sense. And but other than that, I can't really, because it's such a slow burn that this is almost, pure speculation, if not, for the guy's reputation and everything. That people are like, oh yeah, you don't want to go up against him. You don't want a legal battle against this guy. So either he's just incredibly rich and can afford the best lawyers, or he's mob related.
And then the Chris storyline, which does feel important. It does tie directly to the last season. It ties heavily to DeCourcy. So it is an important storyline. I'm not sure where it's going. My assumption, so basically DeCourcy has the stuff with his family. He has, that sort of competition that was established last week's episode. And then we have him dealing with this sort of cop killer case. And then obviously I think the Jackie Sinclair stuff will tie into all that with DeCourcy. So he's going to be essentially at the center of every single thing. But as far as what, Chris going through what he went through and trying to decide, what he's going to do. Yeah, thoughts on where that story is somebody, Larry, what you post? So the audience doesn't see what.
Yeah, they can't see that. Yeah.
You can just flip it and put it in the video.
Okay, what's up?
That's where I think Chris is.
Just grab it.
Why did you post that?
I don't know. I was just looking at it, and Sean Connery looked real badass and
It's out of nowhere. Sean Connery from the Highlander pops up on the screen. I'm like heavily thinking, like, did I say any Highlander reference?
There's no reference.
Okay.
I've just got horrible ADD.
Oh, I just
Right.
said here we are or something.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Sure,
Yeah.
You did say that.
Like
Chris. But Chris, Chris. Is it just me, or does it feel like they're making him a third main character this season? And
screen time wise, yes. If
definitely.
Screen time, absolutely.
And that there's only two routes we can go here with that being the case. Either Chris is going to die this season, or Chris is going to fill that slot as a third main character, because we're seeing a lot of his personal life. We're seeing a lot of stuff with his wife and his home life and everything. And his storyline is his own storyline away from DeCourcy and everything DeCourcy's doing. So either he's getting that spotlight, and it's permanent, or it's incredibly temporary. And maybe Chris's assassination or whatever it is that's going to happen to him is another thing that pushes DeCourcy to take the path that he's taking now.
Yeah, I think that although right now it doesn't feel like it has something directly to do with DeCourcy's storyline, I think it's definitely going to tie in. I think that all the stuff with what DeCourcy's trying to do as far as prosecute the murder cops, the cops that are literally killing each other because they snitched. I think that is going to play hugely in what he's trying to do going forward. But because he's having such a hard time getting everybody on board and nobody wants to tell, they all have each other's back, but they feel like they're untouchable. The cops do. So I feel that DeCourcy's end goal, he's going to need Chris, but I think that puts Chris in a vulnerable situation since he needs him. So I am curious if that means that his time is about up.
Sean Connery was also in the Untouchables. He said Untouchables. Oh.
Well, I do think also that DeCourcy sort of pivoting on his approach and changing his mindset may actually lead to saving Chris's life, because instead of telling him to play in the straight and narrow, he may in fact, tell Chris, okay, you got to play this role a little bit. You got to look like you're going along with it to some degree. It'll save your life and it'll allow you to do the little bit of good that you can do.
Well, I mean, there's such a league of extraordinary gentlemen in this show that I don't know. I didn't really have anything. I just thought it was funny.
It wasn't that good of a movie.
No, it fucking sucked. But Sean Connery was in it.
He was in it. I like the vampire in it. She was cool.
It's like you should have made a joke about the bond between DeCourcy and Chris.
That was, well, I couldn't remember which Bond movies he was in, so I was going to make specific references. But
it'd be great if they were all the wrong ones. It's like GoldenEye. But all right.
No Country for Old Men. No, that's not it.
It's not. That's but yeah, it was solid episode. Like I said, I really appreciated the. This was just Jackie having fun, doing what he does best. So I enjoyed all that stuff, and then the DeCourcy stuff was very well done and legitimately emotional. So solid episode. Any other thoughts on this episode?
I don't have any. I just feel like maybe we're 1 to 2 episodes away from them bringing some of this together, because I feel like we're hitting that point where we've got to see some connective tissue between these storylines.
Well, and I think that we're very close to that. I think that there's the route that they're going. This episode with DeCourcy and Jackie coming together at the end of the episode, they both kind of mentioned that, to me, they were both showing that their characters had grown, which is crazy because Jackie, well, I mean, shit, I don't know how old he is in real life, but in the show, I'm assuming he's supposed to be like early 50s. Although I think he's like 67 or some shit. I don't know.
He has to be, I would think.
I know. I think he's later 60s. But, the character he's playing, for him to finally mature at 50 something, like it's crazy, but he was humbled. Last season with all the shit that has happened, his character literally was humbled. I mean, not a lot, but enough to where it made him grow up a little bit. But I think that the character arcs and the growth of the main characters is going to propel this show going forward. And hopefully that it continues, because this is one of those shows that we talked about it last season. We didn't know it was going to get a 3rd season. And then once it did, we were super surprised, but we were also super excited because it was such a great show. And from the jump of this season, it's been great. So I am hopeful that by the end of this season, they either announce that they'll do one more and tie the story up, or that it's going forward, because I am curious even more so now with the direction these characters are going than I was prior to this season.
Yeah. Excited. Yeah. I've complained on this channel many times about shows getting canceled, and just sort of how specifically the American system is in terms of Hollywood producing shows, because there is most times it's season by season, or hell, they'll cancel a show in the middle of a season, and that's just very frustrating. It's like, give it a set order, tie up your story. If it's good enough and you have more stories you can tell, fine, but tie up loose ends. Netflix has so many shows now. It's frustrating to even try watching a Netflix show because they cancel everything.
I normally wait until there's at least 2 seasons before I even dive into one at this point.
Same.
Pain in the ass. But last season ended in a way that felt somewhat tied up. Sort of the shot of Jackie throwing his badge in the water. Like, it's like, okay, that's a good wrap up.
That could have been the end.
It could have.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was a long time before they announced that it got picked up, and sort of was a surprise. So hopefully this season, however, whether or not we'll get more or not, that it'll have some kind of resolution and there's no kind of cliffhanger. But yeah, appreciate everyone listening, and we'll be back next week. We're also going to be doing Game of Thrones. or whatever. What's it called? It's not called. It's going to be House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon.
Yeah, we'll be doing that.
It's still Game of Thrones. That's what everybody's calling it.
And yeah. But yeah, appreciate everyone listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay woke.